The Friday the 13th franchise reviewed. Hello and welcome to the first of this month's horror themed videos. Earlier this year I kind of did a look at the Halloween franchise. Now I'm doing a look at the Friday the 13th franchise. Now I have to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the Friday the 13th movies. Now I know that it's like a horror sacrosanct to the horror community. I always kind of regarded it as a bit of a kind of amateur hour knockoff of Halloween. Um, oh dear, I pissed people off already. I do kind of like the series. I wouldn't be doing a video on it otherwise. Um, and to be honest, I mean, when I was doing the Halloween stuff, it's like, yeah, I don't like six very much. And after H2O, they're pretty much all shite. So I guess I'm not that. I guess I'm not that big of a fan of the franchise after all. Because after H2O, I think it's pretty much all been drivel. Anyway, this is about Friday the 13th. So let's go back to the very beginning with Friday the 13th. I think the first one is okay. It's interesting, of course, in the sense that, spoiler alert, the icon of the series, which is Jason Voorhees, is not actually the killer in the first one. It's his mum. Again, I think this is something that kind of makes the series look a bit more kind of ramshackle than the Halloweens, isn't it? It's like inexplicable that you'd go watch Halloween and Michael Myers isn't the killer. You know, it just seems a bit weird. That being said, Friday the 13th is an okay movie. It doesn't really work as a murder mystery, of course, because you don't even meet the killer until like the last 5 minutes, and at that point it's pretty obvious that it's her. Uh, but it's okay. B minus maybe. The next one is Friday the 13th Part 2, a very imaginative title. I actually really like this one. Now, I think I should point out that I basically saw all of the first 8 in the early 90s. I didn't see any of them as a kid. I saw them all like in the early mid 90s when I was basically old enough to rent horror movies myself. And I mean, I saw Halloween 4 and 5 then for the first time as well. Black Christmas, a bunch of things, and I rented all of the Friday the 13th. Now, I don't recall really being that impressed by 2 when I saw it back in the day, but I saw it a couple of years ago on the Blu-ray set, and I actually thought it was really, really good. I would say that certainly of the serious Friday the 13th movies, this is by far the best. This is actually a really efficient, atmospheric, and scary film with a great, tough, likable heroine. It's I was very impressed with Friday the 13th. I'd at least give it an A minus at the least, maybe even an A. The next one is Friday the 13th, Part 3, very imaginative again. This was kind of 3D, it was made kind of cashing in on the 3D phrase. This is what, again, I saw it back in the day. I guess I thought it was okay. I kind of tried watching it again not long after Part 2, and I didn't really like it, and I turned it off after about 15 minutes. However, I actually watched it again this year, and I watched it in full, and I actually kind of liked it. I mean, it's not as good as 2 by a long way. The cast isn't as good. It's nowhere near as kind of scary. It's still kind of okay, though. I mean, if you want a bit of 80s, slasher teen movie cheese, it's fun. And the last half hour, when things really hit the shit, it's exciting and scary. It's not the greatest, but I thought it was okay this time. B plus. The next one is Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter, which of course it's not the final chapter, even though they killed Jason at the end. Now I know this one is really highly regarded. I'm not a big fan. I don't recall what I thought of it back in the day. It's way too long. I haven't really seen it recently. I think I tried watching this a couple of years ago and I turned it off relatively early on. Again, maybe I like 3. I may simply have not been in the right mood, so maybe I need to watch it again. I know it's really highly regarded. what I saw was not all that impressive to me. Sorry. The next one is part 5, A New Beginning, which gets a lot of hate. I think it's a lot of crap. I don't dislike it for the same reason that a lot of fans dislike it, which is, again, spoiler alert, the killer, despite wandering around wearing a Jason mask, isn't actually Jason. Jason is actually still dead, and it's just somebody cosplaying. That doesn't bother me. I mean, I think that's actually, I think that's quite imaginative and original and different, and I really don't mind when a long-running franchise does something different. The problem is it's just not a particularly good movie. The characters go from being kind of boring to just incredibly obnoxious. And again, it would work way better if it was done like as a kind of a murder mystery. Who is it behind Jason's mask? As it is, it's a character who's on screen for like 30 seconds or something. So when he's unmasked, you're like, who was that? Yeah, it's not exactly Scream, is it? I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. It's just, eh. The next one is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This is a fan favourite, and I have to be honest, it's one of my favourites. This is this series turn very much a turn into full-on kind of supernatural and kind of comedic. As you can tell pretty much from the very beginning, when we get an aping of the James Bond opening with Jason ambling on screen and chucking a machete at the camera instead of shooting at it like Bond does. From that moment on, this is not meant to be taken totally seriously. I like this one. It's really well made. It looks really good. I mean, it looks like more of an expensive movie than a lot of the earlier ones. It looks like a kind of a proper movie, dare I say. I like the cast. Tom Matthews, I think, is the guy from Return of the Living Dead. He's really good in the lead. The lead girl is really good and very pretty, and it is, of course, it's Jennifer Cook from V, the series, the 80s TV series version. Yeah, I really like Jason Lives. It's full on just silly, goofy. Jason gets resurrected by a lightning bolt. As you do. It's a lot of fun. I really like Jason Lives. I'd definitely give it an A-. The next one is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now this is one I haven't seen for a really long time. Again, I kind of tried watching it a while back, turned it off after a bit. I need to give it another look, I think. I recall thinking it was quite good back in the day. But again, I think I need to give this one another go. I wasn't really all that into what I saw. I think these movies, you really kind of have to be in a particular mood. Most of them, maybe a slightly forgiving mood. So I'm going to have to give this one another look, really. Now after that is the last of the kind of the original series, the Paramount Pictures. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now this is another one that's really, really hated, kind of like 5. Only I actually rather like. I rather like it. I actually like it more than some of the earlier ones. Sorry, maybe not 2, but some of the others. Again, I think a lot of the hate from this comes from the fact that it's Jason Takes Manhattan, and he doesn't really get to. It doesn't live up to that. He doesn't even get to New York until the hour mark. And it's only 90 minutes, and we basically get like one scene of him in real New York in Times Square, and the rest of it is kind of shot in Canada. So it doesn't really live up to that. But I don't know. That doesn't really bother me. I actually like the ship stuff. It's like Friday the 13th meets the Poseidon Adventure at one point. Because you get to the point where the ship is sinking. It's flooding, it's taking on water, and the characters have got Jason to deal with as well. They're struggling to not drown and get off this sinking ship, and they've got Jason running around chopping them off as well. I kind of like this one. I kind of find it amusing and entertaining. I like the lead girl, Jensen Daggett. I'm sorry. I know this is a really hated one. I actually kind of like it. I saw this again earlier. I liked this back in the day. I remember thinking it was pretty good back in the day. And I saw this earlier this year and just had a really good time with it. I'm sorry. Definite B plus for me. Now after this, there was quite a long. So the next one didn't come out until about 6 years later. This is Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. This is the second time that supposedly the very last one, and it still wasn't. Now, my brother rented this on Laserdisc back in the day, and we ended up turning it off. We both thought it was complete crap. Now, I haven't seen it ever since then, and like in the last few years, I've been hearing a lot of kind of reviews, kind of revisionists saying, "No, it's actually pretty good when you give it a chance. It's actually quite fun." Because it's not really a Friday the 13th movie. It's got this whole weird thing where Jason's actually like he's actually possessed by some sort of weird creature, and when he gets finally blown to bits by the army in the opening, this thing inside of him starts taking over other people. It's very much kind of more like The Hidden than a Friday the 13th movie. And unfortunately, it's still not good. I actually considered buying this on DVD. I'm glad I didn't. I ended up kind of watching it on, I think it was Stan, the streaming service in Australia last year. I thought it was absolute freaking garbage. I'm sorry. I ended up turning it off again. I think I turned it off at by pretty much the exact same point that we turned it off back in the day, actually, because it's god awful. It's god awful. I'm sorry. I know some fans have kind of revised this to be quite good. I thought it was fucking terrible. The next one was, and again, it was another long gap, the early 2000s, and it's Jason X, which is the one where Jason goes to space. He's cryogenically frozen, and then some Burks on a space station in the far future accidentally revive him, and he goes on a rampage. A lot of fans hate this one because it's obviously very silly. I freaking love it. I have to be honest. I rented this back in the day, like 2001, 2002. I had no idea what to expect. I was in a really bad mood that day for reasons I won't go into. And I was expecting to turn it off, frankly. I was expecting it to just be complete crap. And I ended up laughing my ass off and thoroughly enjoying it. And you know what? I have thoroughly enjoyed it every time I've seen it since. I think Jason X is an absolute hoot. I'm sorry. I know this is not a popular opinion. I know some people hate it. I think it's great fun. I think it's great self-aware, self-knowing fun. And it's one of my favourites in the series. I think an A for Jason X. That's what I think. The last one in the kind of the original series, I guess, sort of, is actually Freddie versus Jason, which is obviously it's a crossover with the Nightmare on Elm Street series. This one has mixed opinions, I think, from fans. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people think it's okay, but it's more of a Freddy movie than a Jason one, which is probably true. I kind of like it. I mean, I kind of like the era that this is from. I know it's early 2000s, but it's kind of like the post-Scream, late 90s teen horror period, which I actually really liked, and I still find most of them a lot of fun. And I find this one funny. I don't think it's quite as much of a hoot as like Jason X or Jason Lives, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It's fun. Yeah, it's a good laugh. I'd probably give it a B. I think it's a good chuckle. And basically, the last Friday the 13th to date was the remake reboot in the late 2000s. I haven't actually seen this. I avoided this at the time because I hate remakes. Again, I think it was on a streaming site, and I tried to watch it, and I watched about 15 minutes. And I was just like, nah, I just don't like it. It's got that late 2000s vibe to it, horror movie vibe, and I really don't like that period at all. That kind of taking ourselves way too seriously period. I've never really seen it, but I didn't like what I did see of it. And that's it. Now, apparently, I have heard rumors that there's actually going to be a new one next year because I know there's been like a legal battle going on over who owns the rights to the franchise and who owns the rights to Jason and all of this stuff. I'm aware of that, and that has been dragged through the courts for freaking years, and that's why there really hasn't been any more movies. Apparently, that's over now. I know that there has been some talk about a new one. I don't know whether that was a joke or something, but it looks like there might be something. I mean, I'll you know, if it gets good notices, I'll give it a look. I guess. I mean to say this is a franchise that, like I said, I've never really considered myself a massive fan of. I'm kind of wondering now if there aren't actually more of these than I would actually watch of the Halloweens, even though I generally always preferred the Halloweens. But like I said, I dislike 6, and after H2O, I just don't give a shit because I hate the Rob Zombie ones. Just look absolutely awful, and I really hated the last two. I'm not even going to bother with Halloween Ends. I really hated the last two. The last one in particular was just God. I may give that, I don't know. God, that was bad. And like Friday the 13th, even though I don't think the Friday the 13th I don't think they've ever scaled the heights of the Halloweens when they were peak. I mean, there's no, I don't think, I'm sorry, that there's no Friday the 13th to me that's anywhere near as good as the original Halloween. And most of the sequels aren't as good as most of the Halloween sequels, in my opinion. But at the same time, I think there's actually more of these than I would watch. I mean, of the first 8, I've enjoyed kind of rewatching most of these except for 4 and 7, which I'm going to have to kind of give another go to anyway because I just wasn't in the mood. Yeah, I hate Jason Goes to Hell. Jason X is an absolute scream, and I don't mind the Freddy versus Jason either. So maybe I like this franchise more than I thought I did. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. There'll be a few more horror-themed vids over the course of this month. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.